Հայաստանի նախագահի ՏՏ գլխավոր մրցանակը առիթ է ծանոթանալու համաշխարհային մակարդակի գյուտարարների եւ գիտնականների հետ։ Եվ այս տարի նույնպես բացառություն չէ, ինչպես հայտնի է, այս տարի նախագահի մրցանակը ստացել է ֆրանսիացի մի գիտնական, որը ըստ էության ինտերնետի 5 գլխավոր նախահայրերից մեկն է։ Այսպես տիկնակ եւ պարոնայք, ժամի տաղավարում է Open Road կազմակերպության գլխավոր տնօրեն ֆրանսիացի գիտնական datagram-ի գյուտարար եւ համացանցի նախահայրերից Louis Pouzin. Mr. Pouzin, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come here.
My pleasure.
First of all, what was your reaction when you got a call about receiving an award from Armenia? What was your first reaction?
Well, I was surprised to get a phone call from a Frenchman who said that I was considered for a prize in Armenia. Well, my first reaction is, what first prize and why is it Armenia? And then he started to explain that you had a tradition now, a recent tradition of having a prize allocated every year and so on. Well, at first, my first reaction is say, why not? Armenia, I've never been there. It might be an opportunity to visit the country and to meet people I don't know yet. On the other hand, you know, Armenia was not, in a sense, something unknown because we have heard of Armenia existence, and there are a lot of Armenian people who live in France, either in Paris, Marseille, or other big cities. So in a way, Armenian traditions are somehow already familiar a little bit in France. We have Armenian restaurants, Armenian food, Armenian shops, and so on, you know. So that was pleasant at first sight, you know.
And I know this is your first trip to Armenia. What are your impressions? Have you met people, visited places?
Well, then when I talked to the person who called me, it was Philippe d'Argent. Apparently he was a good friend of Tony Moroyan. And we exchanged some mail, and then we agreed to have a lunch together with Tony Moroyan when he would be in Paris, which happened a few weeks later. And then we discussed about the prize and Armenia in general, what the objectives of the country was in order to become which is already the case actually, an advanced technological set of capacities and so on, which sounds to me not only attractive but feasible. Take, for example, Estonia. They also tried that and succeeded. So it's a kind of thing which is apparently something very attractive for countries who have sufficient control of their economy to start an ambitious plan for new technologies, which is more difficult when you have a large country. You know?
Some people say that the all best thing that humankind is creating ended up to benefit for big corporations, even IT technology. What do you think? What should small countries like Armenia should do to kind of to have success in IT sectors? Because we all know about this big mega international corporation that using ITs for making more revenues. But what about countries? You were saying about Estonia. What would you suggest for Armenia, where we should start or what we should continue?
Well, it certainly would be the same scheme which has been applied in other countries, for example, South Korea, and also Israel, and some place in India like Bangalore. Mm-hmm. So the approach is to have a visionary plan which may take a number of years to develop. You know, I remember when I was in India in the 70s, they already discussed producing software for export. At that time, it sounded incredible, but that's just what they did, because those kind of projections takes time to materialize. When they wanted to produce software was not yet something as frequently used as now. You know, it was mainly the monopoly of IBM, for example. Mm-hmm. So it was more ambitious in a way. but they managed to reach that position to become a major provider for software. So I think in the new technology, in a way, it's more simple because you don't have to challenge the major monopolies in the world to succeed. You can pick a niche market with some specific products which have not yet been implemented or which have not yet found their appropriate market. So make it more perfect, improve on the design, make the cost acceptable, and then find some buyer. You know, a lot of products which are now in IT, on the IT field, come from another country from the what you live in. the Asian producers are famous for that, you know. But it also can be as well countries which doesn't have to be that far away from Silicon Valley, you know.
For some people, when they say internet, they really mean social networks. What's your approach to social networks such as Facebook, Snapchat, or Twitter? What do you think about that?
I'm not subscriber to any social network.
Are you really? You are not
right.
on Facebook?
No.
You don't tweet?
No Facebook, no tweet, no
Instagram?
LinkedIn, nothing.
Why?
Because they have absolutely no protection of privacy data, private data.
It is important to have private data protection?
Well, of course, you know, private data have to be controlled by the people they belong to, but they do not respect any protection.
What about emails? Do you have email?
Oh yeah, I received too many, by the way.
Maybe this would sound very futuristic, but what do you think? What the next step for internet? Because now we see this kind of internet incorporated into our lives. So we do banking online, we talk online, we live online. What's going to happen next?
The same thing, but it will become more critical because there are still about 2/3 of the world which is not using internet. And that means there is still a major challenge in bringing the remaining 2/3 of the world into using internet. It will occur, but at different times in the future, and with different approaches, I believe. And that means more and more tensions between generation of people, between countries, because they may have different legislation, different level of standing, level of revenues, and also different religions. For example, depending on the religion people may have, things like alcohol, sex, and so on are handled quite differently. That means they want to have control on the contents of what's visible on the internet. And that was not provided in the initial internet, which was designed for being accessible by everybody for the whole world. So that actually has been retrograding in some sense, a regression, because at the moment, most information available on the internet is already under control. That means that communication between people to people directly is feasible with special software, for example, Tor, you know. But this is still under control. So the initial idea of you talk to the whole world or to whomever you want to talk to is no longer applicable. It's under various systems which may be handled by states or by large companies or by some sort of monopolies, you know. So I think the future internet may reintroduce that kind of operation, but it requires a substantial transformation of the existing architecture and software of the internet.
Right now, a lot of mobile applications, for example, announced that, for example, Telegram, that they use a special software for peer-to-peer communication. after all, do you think that that this new wave of concerns about privacy of the citizens is gonna occur and shape what the internet can provide to citizens? So people are concerned about, for example, cloud services. So a lot of people have found that their iCloud database was broken, or third party, they have third party access for anyone else who can see their stuff. So how would these concerns about internet privacy would shape the future of the internet?
Well, things like Telegram, for example, are usable by anybody, provided they want to get involved in first get the software, second understand and know how to use it. And furthermore, it's not unbreakable. It can be broken. So I think this kind of tool usually has a limited life expectancy. For a while it works roughly well. And after that, people feel that they don't want to get bored with the various technical implications. And if the system varies, they may have difficulty in following the variations. And furthermore, if it's systematically broken by surveillance systems, it loses its efficiency. Mm-hmm. But it could come back.
By the way, some people say that, for example, the future is internet is mobile applications. Everyone is getting smaller for the wider, smaller screen and phone. What do you think that we're gonna give up laptops and portable computers, and the next step is phablets? It's bigger than the usual. It's probably the small iPod mini. So the people would use those for work, for entertainment, for life.
Well, at the moment, the smartphone or something similar are indeed extremely popular, and even in countries like Africa, which has very few laptops but a lot of smartphones, it's used constantly, mainly for telephony, and so I'm exchanging things like short text, but that's not necessarily very convenient for the people if you don't use ASCII, if you don't use the standard Latin-oriented type of character. If they want to use their own language, it's not easy on smartphones because they don't have the appropriate figuring. Mm-hmm. But I think smartphone will keep developing in any country and in any type of application and users. That's certainly the case because it's not heavy, you can put in the pocket, but it has no security, not much security. So people who want security will have to revert to more sophisticated equipment.
You are award-winning scientist. I mean, you got an award from Armenia, from Queen, by the way. What is the prize that you care much? What is the award that you love much?
Well, at the moment I have a fixation, if you can say, on domain names. Not because it's necessarily more important than other things, but because at first I know this business, and I understand that in the internet ecology, it's one of the locks which are used by, let's say, the American monopoly for controlling the development of the internet by fixing rules, putting tariff, and controlling the infrastructure is developed, and also spying on that. So that's a lot of things. So by using different techniques, not necessarily different at the technical level, but at the usage level, then you can work around that and create new markets and new ways of exchanging information, new ways of creating business, which are not available today. So it just the niche I picked for myself, but there could be other ways.
Do you have any plans regarding Armenia? Because a lot of our people who got award ended up writing about Armenia or making some plans about Armenia. Do you have something in your mind?
It looks like it might be tempting and possible to have some projects between, I wouldn't say by my company because we're just a microscopic company, but at least with a group of teams which work in future internet. And that's the case at the moment with, for example, a project which started initially in the United States, but driven by internet pioneers too, which think of redesigning the internet architecture so that anything that's missing today, for example, security, authentication, multiple sources, mixing, and so on, different languages and so on. I couldn't make up the whole list because it was too technical and a little bit boring, but on the other hand, that's what's needed for having a future internet, which will be the base, the solid base for developing secure applications. And make sure that in that context, when you develop an application, you're totally insulated from the rest of the world, so that you will not be under the pressure of spam, pirates, and so on, and various kind of attacks like distributed denial of service, as you may know, are kind of killing any big system, like 2 weeks ago, DIN, for example. So that's the future, and I think in that context, there are certainly ways of increasing the number of teams who work on that future internet. And that could very well be people from Armenia.
Wow. And my last question, it's about the world event, the US election. What's your reaction? Trump has won.
I think he will need a lot of workers to build the wall with Mexico, because if you look at the style of the land, there are a lot of mountains and rivers and so on, cities which are crossed by the river. So building a wall to Mexico is just a fantasy. So
he wouldn't do that.
Well, just propaganda.
All right. Mr. Pouzin, it was an honor talking to you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Սիրելի հեռուստադիտողներ, ես հիշեցնեմ, որ մենք զրուցում էինք ՀՀ նախագահի ՏՏ այս տարվա մրցանակակիր ֆրանսիացի գիտնական համացանցի նախահայրերից մեկի Լուի Պուզենի հետ։ Մենք զրուցում էինք այն մասին, թե ի վերջո որն է այսօրվա ինտերնետի ամենագլխավոր մտահոգություններից մեկը, ըստ նրա դա հետևյալն է՝ անվտանգությունը, որպեսզի օգտագործեն ծրագրեր, օգտագործեն համակարգիչներ, որոնք որ չեն վերահսկվում որևէ կառավարության կամ կազմակերպության կողմից։ Խոսելով Հայաստանի մասին, նա ասաց, որ Հայաստանը պետք է, եթե ցանկանում է զարգանալ որպես ՏՏ առաջատար երկիր, պետք է ունենա այսպես կոչված visionary, այսինքն տեսլական, թե ինչպես է զարգանում։ Նա պատմեց, որ 70-ականներին, երբ նա այցելել է Հնդկաստան, այն ժամանակ հնդկացիները ցանկացել են հնդիկներ ավելի շուտ, ցանկացել են ստեղծել ծրագրեր, որոնք կարող են արտահանել։ Դա թվում էր գրեթե անհավանական IBM-ի մենաշնորհային դարաշրջանում, բայց այսօր արդեն Հնդկաստանը համարվում է ՏՏ ոլորտի ամենաառաջատար երկրներից մեկը, եւ հենց այդ իմաստով նա ասաց, որ Հայաստանը պետք է ունենա այն տեսլականը եւ ամբիցիաները, թե հատկապես ինչպիսի երկիր է ցանկանում դառնալ ՏՏ քարտեզում, եւ նա խորհուրդ տվեց ստեղծել ծրագրեր, որոնք հենց կկարողանան երաշխավորել օգտագործողների կապը իրար միջև առանց որևէ երրորդ կազմակերպության վերահսկման, այսպես կոչված պիրատների, այսինքն ծովահենների կամ գովազդի միջամտության։ Սա իր կարծիքն էր նաև Հայաստանի ՏՏ հնարավոր զարգացման մասին, եւ մենք վերջում բնականաբար անդրադարձանք ամերիկյան ընտրություններին, եւ պարոն Պուզենը նկատեց, որ դժվար Թրամփը սկսի ամերիկա-մեքսիկական սահմանի պատի շինարարությունը, հաշվի առնելով, որ այն ձգվում է երկար եւ մեծ սարերով, քաղաքներով եւ գետերով, հետեւաբար դա ավելի շատ նախընտրական խոստում էր, քան գործողությունների ծրագիր։ Սա համառոտ, շարունակեք դիտել ժամը, շնորհակալություն ուշադրության համար։